Okay, welcome to the Daily Accelerated Growth Call. This is our call for Monday, October 19th, 2015. And as you can see, it's a very special one because Stacy Kildall is finally joining us here. Good morning, Stacy.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, everyone.
All right, let's start off with 10 seconds of calm. Just quiet your mind to get the day started. I'm going to share my screen. I do this with calm.com, but the reality is you can actually do this in any number of ways. If you go onto YouTube and search for meditation, you'll find like thousands of videos. And I'm getting so emotional. So, as always, as I've kind of started the momentum going with this, we're going to talk about, productivity tips, how to get organized, how to get structured, how to achieve our goals. So, Stacy, since you're here with us for the first time, I'm going to start with you. What's your best tip for today for how people can accomplish whatever goals they've set out to accomplish today?
I'm going to say that for me, today, right now, the best thing that I could suggest is sleep. Facebook has, and the reason why I say this is, how Facebook has that memories thing where you can go back on whatever day and you can look like, this is what you posted a year ago. This is what you posted on this day 2 years ago.
Yep.
And over the weekend, over the last week, I was looking at some of the posts from a year ago up to 4 years ago. And so often the posts for me are, oh, I'm up yet again at 4 o'clock in the morning. Here I am awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm really a horrible insomniac. So I find myself just waking up for no reason. And I thought it was something recent. And until I saw those posts on Facebook, I didn't realize how long it had been going on. And so it made me realize how much better I feel, like just physically and mentally and emotionally, and how much more I get done when I get a good night's sleep. And for me, a good night's sleep is 6 straight hours. I mean, that is really all I can ask for. So I would say productivity is sleep. Don't discount getting good quality sleep. That's my advice for today.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, actually, because I've had the experience. I used to think, I can push myself. I can push through it. If I'm a little tired, no big deal. And I've had that experience firsthand where I've noticed, and I've noticed it distinctly as a pattern because I've actually paid attention to it. Right? It makes a big difference when you actually pay attention to these things and think and actually take the time to think about it. Like, how does this affect me, right? And I've had the experience this year in particular of actually noticing that when I get a good night's sleep and when I do it consistently, because it's not just a one-night thing. You can't play catch-up over the weekends, right?
You can't play catch-up ever with sleep. And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize. You can't ever play catch-up with sleep.
Yeah, it's a cumulative thing. So you have to cumulatively be in the habit of getting a good night's sleep consistently. And so it's funny because it's really not funny. I just say it's funny as a matter of expression. But
right.
Speaking of calm.com, what I figured out was that using an app like calm.com helps me get a much better night's sleep. In fact, that's why I got into meditation in the first place. I was supposed to be doing meditation as part of my 12-step process from years ago when I started, and I never bothered. I never got into it. I thought it was the kind of thing that I would do eventually, And then I went through an experience where I, for the first time in my life, was having trouble sleeping, and it was suggested to me that I start meditating, and it was like the best sleep aid you could ever imagine. And I can't and won't take any sleep aids because most of them are narcotic, right? I can't take Ambien or anything like that. So, having that experience, though, and knowing that I have a tool now that will help me get the sleep I need when I need it, I've been able to enforce that when I felt I've needed it, and then recognize that it's better to just get in the habit and meditate every night before I go to sleep. And the bottom line is this. when I get a good night's sleep, when I'm well rested, I can see how much better focused I am. I actually find myself less distracted when I've had a good night's sleep. I have much less of a tendency to say, oh, let me go check what's on Facebook. I don't get so bored with what I'm doing because, again, I'm focused, I'm high energy, and I want to stay focused on what I really want to be doing, which oftentimes is not screwing around on Facebook or checking emails or anything other than what I'm supposed to be focusing on right now at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. And so for me, what I always did, and I started this back in high school, because when I was in high school, I used to get migraines, really bad migraines. And what I started doing is I would lay down in a very quiet, dark room and just start from sometimes my head and sometimes my toes and just relax my whole body. And sometimes I would let all of the energy out through the top of my head, and sometimes I would start from my head and just try to relax all the way down and just let all the tension go out through my body. And so that's how I have always kind of done, I guess, my version of meditation. And I find the more often that I do that, before I go to bed, I end up sleeping, getting a better night's sleep. So, and also there's an app that you can, it's about sleep rhythms. And if you tell it, okay, I need to be up at a certain time, it'll tell you, okay, go to bed at this time or this time or this time in order to get the best, to be the most well rested because of the sleep rhythms, because of how your sleep rhythms are.
My Up 24 app actually does that. It does exactly that. It monitors the sleep patterns, and I'll get notifications saying, hey, you haven't been getting to sleep as early as usual the last 3 nights. If you want to get sort of maximize your sleep, get into bed by 8 p.m. tonight.
Yep. And,
it's funny, speaking of 8 p.m., I find that that's the best time for me to really, if I plan on getting kind of ready to get into bed at 8 p.m., those are the nights when I get the best night's sleep. I kid myself into thinking, oh, I can stay up and work late and work till 10 p.m., it just doesn't work. And, the description, by the way, Stacey, that you gave about what you used to do is exactly what any guided meditation has you do. So what you're doing, in my experience, is exactly what meditation is. If you do calm.com, if you do one of their 10-minute, daily meditations that they sort of prescribe, that's exactly what they'll have you do. They'll have you focus on your breathing to start with, to kind of get your focus centered. And then they'll have you go through your entire body, head to toe. And all you're really doing is thinking about that part of your body and releasing tension with every exhale,
Yep.
and bringing in the energy with every inhale. So you're bringing in energy, you're releasing tension. And at the end of a 10-minute, that's all it takes is 10 minutes. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing, you can do a 30, 40-minute meditation.
Right.
There have been times when I've been sort of extra stressed out that I'll do the 10 minutes and I just know I need more. And so I'll go right back into the app and say, nope, give me another 20 minutes. I need it, and I'll do it. And because sometimes it takes me the 10 minutes just to start getting focused, especially if my mind is really distracted at the end of a tough day, so it really helps me to use the app. And then I get a good night's sleep.
And the other thing, too, is, and you hear this and you read this all the time, but it really is true, is set your phone down. Don't read your phone and don't watch TV right before you go to bed. A lot of people use e-readers. I'm not an e-reader. I'm a traditionalist, and I read tons and tons of books. And I usually will sit down with a book, like maybe just a James Patterson book, or maybe it's a Stephen King, just a quick, for me, I call it like an airport book, something I grab in the airport on a way to a trip. Kind of like, it's not literature, it's not heady, it's like McDonald's for my brain, right? It's just a quick read. Those are the kind of books I can get through in a day. I'll sit down in the morning after we get breakfast, and I can sit on the couch, or if it's nice outside, I can sit outside on my deck, and I can read that book in a day. And so what I found is that when I read before I go to bed, a real book, not an e-reader, I sleep so much better than if I'm reading the news or I'm reading an article on my phone or on my iPad. And I think that is one thing that people are missing out on with real books these days is, yes, they're reading, but if they're doing it before they go to bed, they still have that electronic stimulation that is not getting them in a place to go to sleep for the night. It's actually getting them back up. And every single thing that you read and all these articles tell you, set your phone down, don't watch TV, don't have your iPad or your computer right before you go to bed. It's not helping you go to sleep. It's not getting you in a place to go to sleep. And so that's another thing that I will do. Like last night, I slept like a champ. And I read for, like while Kevin was in the shower, you're getting ready, I read for like a half hour before. And he got out of the shower, turned the light off, I put my book down. I slept all night. Didn't wake up once. Slept like $1 million. So I think that really helps too.
Yep, and that's how I always sleep every time I do a meditation right before going to sleep. And they suggest doing it in the morning to start your day, which of course you could do both. You know, you can do it in the morning when you get up, and at night before you go to sleep. And it's funny, speaking of the phone thing, you know, my phone is my alarm clock, so I do sleep with my phone next to me. And but this morning, you know, I get up. My habit has been, especially since I started doing these calls every day, and these calls have really helped me, because knowing that I want to make sure that I get up and get showered and dressed and in front of my computer on time to do this, it means I've got to get to sleep early the night before, right? So I'm not too tired and groggy. And the other commitment I've made that I've been doing consistently recently is walking the dogs every morning at 6 a.m. So a couple of times I've made the mistake of picking up the phone and starting to like read email and check Facebook. And next thing I know, it's already 6:45 and I haven't walked my dogs yet. And my mind is already running and I start questioning whether or not I even can walk the dogs. And of course I have, because, you know, the commitment I'm making is partly to them. You know, they deserve it. They deserve to be able to go out and have that walk. You know, why should they be punished just because I, you know, made the mistake of picking up my phone first thing? So this morning I started to do it. I picked up my phone and I'm looking at emails, and always it's like I kid myself. It's almost like an addict trying to tell himself I'm only going to take one, right? So the phone, I think I'm just going to kind of graze the emails. And then like a split second later, as I'm opening the emails and realizing the bright screen is actually bothering me, it's actually almost painful to look at because I've literally just opened my eyes. And I'm like, what am I doing looking at this thing? And I practically threw it down. And I got out of bed and instead leaned over and started petting Ralphie, you know, and because he knows as soon as I wake up, it's minutes before it's time to go for their walk. And, you know, so it's so much better to start your day off also without all that stimulus. You know, how many times I've woken up at 2:30 in the morning and thought, oh, well, I'll just pick up my phone and read something. And you're right. It wakes you up. It doesn't help you relax, you know.
No, not at all. And so that's one of the things that I do when I first wake up. My alarm goes off. Kevin's alarm will go off usually, and then I hear that. If not, my alarm goes off, and then I spend a few minutes, and that's how I wake up in the morning, is I just go through my emails and see what I have to deal with during the day. Because for my day, with my two kids, I get up around 6:30, and now I'm going to have to start getting up earlier because I'm going to have to start working out because I can't go outside because it's starting to get winter and cold. So my day is I like to check my emails first thing so that I can get up so I can see what I have to deal with as soon as I get back from dropping the kids off. Like, what are my priorities going to be? What is my calendar? What do I have? So I can set that down. I set my phone down because for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, I have to get kids ready for school. I have to get kids to school. And then by the time I get back, so we leave the house around 7:15, and I don't get back until, you know, close to 9 o'clock by the time I drop both my kids off at school. So that's the one thing that I do differently is I have to see what my day is, and it does wake me up. So, you know, I love that same but different. You and I are same but different.
Right. Yeah, see, I got back from walking my dogs and brewed my coffee, and then I came over to my computer and started looking at the emails and things, and I always just, you know, I reverse engineer. I do a filter on my email for only those things, and there went my camera. I'll see if I can get it back on again. I'm sure I can. But you can still hear me, right?
Yep.
So I'll go through the emails, just the unread ones, because anything that's marked red I've already looked at and determined, you know, what and whether or not it's a priority and all that kind of thing. let me see if and how I can get my camera going. There we go. There I am. I'm back.
Yay!
I'm back. So what I did was, can you see my screen?
I can.
So I've been doing this in Trello lately. I used to do it in Evernote, but same idea. So one of the things I do is I have these different checklists. And the one I always put at the top is these are the things I have to do before I go to sleep. Right? In other words, without a doubt, before I go to sleep, these things need to get done. So this is the last thing I do. Like tonight, I'm going to go to my class, and then I'm going to go to the gym and swim laps. And then when I come back, I'm going to sort of be winding down, but I'll look at this and see what did I have to do before I go to sleep. Then here under today's tasks, I have things I have to do for school of bookkeeping, work on Between Wall and Main, which is another project that you know about that nobody else is going to know about for a while. And then SFVCA is the nonprofit, for Cocaine Anonymous, stuff I have to do. Right. So that's kind of what I do is I organize my checklists for the day, and these are the things I need to do, and oftentimes are being pulled from other to-do lists, right? Because everything has its sort of context. Like I have, Active Collab that I used to manage tasks for my clients, so I might pull from that and say, okay, I'm going to work on this thing for this client today. And I don't know if you noticed that some of them are bolded in Trello. Like, see how I have SOB bolded? Well, you do that by putting 2 asterisks around either side of it. It's like there's a certain markup language. I forget what it's called, but that Trello sort of conforms to. And that's how you're able to sort of bold certain things. So that's how I accomplish sort of showing tasks with subtasks kind of thing here, right? So, so that's how Trello works. And I love Trello for this because I can create multiple checklists, and I can easily drag something from one checklist to another. Like if I wanted to say, all right, well, this is going to become something that I'm going to do before I go to sleep tonight, I can just click and drag it and say, okay, so I'll do that. It'll be, it sort of makes it high priority, but not something I'm going to do during the day, but something that apps, it's not letting me do it, of course. Let's try again. There we go. But it sort of makes it like high enough priority that it has to get done today, but not during the normal day's tasks, right? So again, and usually these are going to be simple things. I'm not going to put something in this category that's going to take me down some big rabbit hole and keep me up late at night, right? The whole idea is I still need to get to sleep at a decent hour. And when I'm getting up at 6, I think earlier I said 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is when I try to get to sleep when I'm getting up at 4 a.m., which I do sometimes. But if I'm getting up at 6, I can stay up till 10. That works because that's, for me, I need the 8 hours, and that gives me the 8 hours from 10 to 6. I mean, I'm not sleeping the entire 8 hours, but as long as I'm in bed at that mark that gets me 8 hours into bed, 8 hours before I'm planning on getting up, that's what tends to work for me.
4 o'clock? You get up at 4 o'clock?
For years, I was getting up at 4 a.m. almost every day. And recently, I realized I was having too much trouble doing it. And so I said, why keep sort of deluding myself into thinking I can do it? For whatever reason, my body's biological clock has shifted. And I really, when I was 35, I could get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. And I used to love doing that. It felt really good.
Whew.
But, right now that doesn't seem to be the case. And, I think there's a number of factors that play into that, honestly. I think part of it is, and I'm realizing this, especially, again, as I've been doing this process and, getting up at 6 and walking the dogs every day. For the longest time, I wasn't walking the dogs. And for the longest time, I really wasn't getting much physical activity. And all of a sudden, my legs are cramping up. And I'm like, well, duh, I'm sitting in my chair all day, hardly doing any physical activity, just basically going from the computer to the bed and back, maybe the shower in between, right?
Right.
So, hopefully. But so the point is, no wonder I have all this extra weight on my upper body, weighing down on my legs. So of course they're going to start atrophying and getting cramped up. And, so that's why I've started to make it a point to make sure I get more active. And that's why I'm going to this class and then, getting into the pool afterwards and swimming laps. Because to me, that's like the best exercise one can get is swimming.
It's good. I like bike riding.
Bike riding is good too. I'm hoping actually to drop enough of the extra weight so that I can get back on my bike because that's also gotten really difficult for me. So,
yeah,
but it's working. I'm starting to lose weight, and because I'm in this process now, I become more conscious of what I'm eating. So everything all feeds in to one another.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you brought up this topic of getting a good night's rest because I think it's so much more important than most of us give credit to.
You know what? I feel like people just, they forget. They just don't think about it. And for me, I let it slip sometimes. I will say that. Like I let it slide and something happens and it really kind of shocks me back into remembering that, yeah, you need to get some sleep, dummy.
Yeah.
Function.
And again, the illusion is, oh, I need to push myself and I need to work hard and put in all these hours to succeed. And the reality is, by getting a better night's sleep, I'll get more done in less time, so I won't have to put in all the hours. And that's the truth.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely positively the truth.
Yep. I mean, I'm so much more focused when I'm well rested, like I said earlier, that I know I'm getting more done in a fraction of the time, as opposed to when I'm exhausted. I mean, talk about diminishing returns. You know, it doesn't get any more extreme than when you haven't rested well. And, you know, we kid ourselves. I've gotten to the point where I've been so exhausted that I finally had to say to myself, okay, Seth, you know, take yourself into bed. I'm done. I can't do any more. You know, and I do that on the weekends a lot. I used to work like a full work day on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So I was working 7 days a week. And I've realized that at a certain point, I need to just acknowledge that I'm exhausted and I need
you can't
go unplug, you know. And in fact, yesterday I did that. Yesterday I was planning on working all day. I had all this work to do and it was overwhelming to me how much I had to do to get caught up. And I just remembered, hey, schmuck, if you get a good day's rest today and unplug the way you need to, then tomorrow, meaning today, Monday, you'll be that much more effective. And sure enough, I was. By about 2 p.m. yesterday, I pretty much went into my bedroom, watched some movies and shows that my wife and I like to watch together. And I was in bed, I think, by about 7:30, 8 o'clock. You know, we'd watched The Walking Dead, which we love to watch. And I was fast asleep probably well before 9 p.m., and slept pretty much the night through. I didn't even have to meditate last night. I just slept the night through and woke up. And I woke up and I got up to use the restroom and I walked by a clock and I realized, oh, it's 10 to 6. Okay, perfect. It's time to get up and go walk the dogs. So I didn't even get back into bed. That's the only thing that sucks, though. When you get out of bed not realizing that you don't get to go back to bed, I hate that.
Yeah, I know. So you said something now. I can't remember what it was.
Sorry.
Oh, I used to work too, all the time on the weekends, and we've talked about it. And you've asked me a couple times, do you want to do a call? And I'm like, nope, I don't work on the weekends. I worked for 12 years on the weekends. I am not working on the weekends anymore. I do not do it. Like that's the time that I get to spend with my kids and my family. I'll check emails and I'll reply to emails if I have a couple minutes and I'm sitting there doing nothing on my phone. But I generally try not to even turn on a computer or a laptop on the weekends once I get up on Saturday mornings until I wake up on Monday morning. I do not open a laptop or sit down here in my office unless I have no choice.
See, you're better than me. I still work a lot on Saturdays are my days to sort of do a lot of the video production that I do because I often don't have time during the week to do it all. And then Sundays I catch up on my own finances, but usually the plan is to, you know, I get up early. I still get up early even on Saturday and Sunday. You know, I still get up at 6 and walk the dogs. And so the idea is to, you know, first of all, if there's something to go do, if my wife and I want to go do something, then all bets are off. I'm out. I'm done.
Yep.
And she knows that. She knows all she has to do is say, hey, Seth, let's go. Like this time of year, this month, they have something in Pasadena, California called Rise of the Jack-O-Lanterns, which is a really cool, every Friday night they do it. It starts at 10:15 at night, so it's a little late. But it's like 400 jack-o'-lanterns just lit up, and you go on this, I think it's like a 4-mile walk, and it's just the coolest thing. So, in fact, I was just reminded this morning that I want to do that. I want to get us tickets for it. But first I have to convince her to be willing to go out and do something that late on a Friday night because usually we're in bed so early.
Right.
Anyway, so if there's something like that to do, then I'm out. You know, and the thing is, because I do put in the hours that I put in, I have no guilt ever about taking time off.
Well, you shouldn't. And that's the thing. Like, that bothers me that you said that you would even have guilt to go take time to go for yourself. And this is what nobody should ever have guilt about taking time for themselves away from work. You should never have that guilt. I mean, ever. You need that. And so, like, I don't ever want to hear you say that ever again.
Well, so here's where it comes from, though. And
I
this
don't
is
care.
something I've learned.
You can't have it.
No, but this is important for other people to hear so that they understand where it's coming from when they experience this. So it comes from a fear, right? And I've learned, especially through my own 12-step process, that we experience 1,000 forms of fear, which usually boil down to two, right? Either I'm going to lose something that I have, or I'm not going to get something I want. That's what they boil down to. So here's the evolution of the fear that leads to the guilt that, like you said, is totally unbased. It shouldn't ever happen, especially when you work hard like I do. But the guilt is based on the fear that I've made commitments to do things, and I'm not going to have the time to get them done, and then I'm going to lose the clients, and then I'm going to lose the money, and then I'm going to go broke, and I'm going to lose my home, and I'm going to be homeless and living on the street.
I call that going from zero to living in a van down by the river in about 60 seconds.
Right.
And so I understand that. And I think anybody who owns and runs their own business, anybody who's self-employed has that fear. I totally get it. But you also need to not ever feel guilty about taking a few hours on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, or even on a Thursday afternoon if you want to spend an hour watching a rerun of Law and Order. It's okay to do that.
Yep.
If you need to do that, it's okay. And it took me, I'm saying that from experience, it took me a very long time to get to that point, because I'm the kind of person who I have a tendency to go from zero to, oh my gosh, I'm going to be living in a van down by the river very, very quickly. So,
that's why it was important for me to say, like, I get what you're saying when you say, I don't ever want to hear you say that, and I agree with you, but it's important to say it because that's really the underlying fear that we don't recognize, or we don't acknowledge that it's really going on.
I acknowledge it, but I'm just telling you, I don't want anybody to ever, I don't want to hear you say, I don't feel guilty, because you should not feel guilty about ever taking time, because you have to do that to have that, you have to do that. And it took me way longer than it should have to realize and to give myself permission. And I don't know, I'm not saying that I think it's different, but I know that for everybody, but for me, it was also, I had the added like mom guilt, right? Because like, first of all, like, oh, I need to first take care of my kids and spend all this time with my kids and then my business. And then what's left for me? And I think that is like inherently like a mom, like when you get pregnant and you have kids, nobody tells you about the mom guilt that comes with it. Nobody tells you that. And everybody that I know that's pregnant for the first time, I'm like, oh, hey girl, no one's going to tell you this. But first of all, you're going to have all this crap that falls out of you after the baby's born. And second, the guilt that comes with it is just crushing. And so if you need to talk, here's my phone number. I know you don't know me that well, but it doesn't matter. The guilt can be overwhelming. And so you combine that with running your business and all this other stuff, you have to give yourself a couple hours. And that's why, like, my big thing lately at all these conferences and all these shows that I've been doing is trying to do that, is really what I've been focusing on is, I've spent the last 5 or 6 years teaching QBO, but what I found over the last couple of years is I think I would rather start helping people find, I don't think it's a balance, because I think balance is a bunch of bullshit. I think it's really a work-life integration.
Yeah, I love that you call it that, because I agree with you. I love that you call it work-life integration instead of work-life balance, because
it's not a balance at all. It doesn't balance out at all. You have to figure out how to make it all work together and how to make it mesh. And that's really like my passion right now, is trying to help others find that sweet spot and help it, or keep trying to find it, because I think it's an ongoing thing to keep finding how to get them all to work together.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah. I mean, so case in point, yesterday when I did go into my bedroom, I did take my laptop in with me. And while we were watching the movies, I got I spent about an hour out of that time actually doing my AP, the bills that had come into my bill.com inbox. I entered them, just because it was an easy enough thing to do to get out of the way while I was watching TV with my wife. It's kind of mindless. I just have to sit there and do the basic, data entry of it. And it was done. And then I closed my laptop and, and then I was focused on, spending that time with my wife. And we have a thing now where we don't pick up our phones. If we're spending that time together, even if we're watching movies or TV or whatever, we call each other on it. If she picks up the phone to start messaging with one of her friends, I'll say something. And if I do, then she'll say something. We remind each other, hey, no, put the phone down. This is our time. Right.
Yep.
And it's great. I love that we do that. And I actually wrote a blog post about a year or so ago called Stop Trying to Balance Your Life. And it was the same message. It was like, let's not kid ourselves into thinking that we're going to actually balance our lives, especially if you're an entrepreneur running your own business. There's no way you're going to balance your life. I never just articulated it that way, but I love the way you articulated, Stacy, when you say work-life integration, because I think you even commented to me the other day that you'll go to your kid's soccer game, but you'll be getting some work done while you're sitting there watching the game.
Because he's not playing every second. He's not on the field every single second. So when he's not on the field, quite frankly, no offense to the other parents, I really don't care about their kids. I just want to see when my kid's playing.
Right.
And so I can check my email and I can answer text messages. It's like when I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching whatever at night, like you were watching your movie. Then I'm managing some social media and I'm dealing with some stuff. Or on a Saturday afternoon, I try not to work on the weekends, but and spend time with my husband and my kids. But if my husband is out, doing something in the yard or working outside on something and the kids are both busy with their friends and I don't really have anything to do, then I'm probably going to sit around and get some work done. Or I'm going to write a blog article. Or maybe I won't do anything. Maybe I'll just read a book. It's my option to spend that time the way I want. And I think that's what we have to really start doing, is just giving ourselves permission to spend that time and blocking out that time. Work if you want to. That's fine. I love my work. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it doesn't feel like work, but other times I don't really want to. And so I might want to just sit and read a book or, I don't know, do nothing. So, like the other day, I was looking at some of the old shows from QB's show and listening to some of those. I should have been working. I absolutely, positively, I had a ton of stuff to do. But I was listening to some of our old shows from 5 years ago, and it was cracking me up. So I spent an hour doing that. And that was fine. And when I got done, I thought, man, I really should have worked, but that was really fun, and I'm glad I did that. So
yeah. Okay. Sometimes you have to allow the distractions, and that's important. In fact, my version of that the other night was I was supposed to be working on something, and somehow I wound up in my photographs that are in my camera uploads folder in Dropbox, which has every photo that I've ever taken with every camera that I've ever had ever since that integration existed. So it goes back quite a ways. There's a lot of pictures in there that cover quite a bit of history of my life. So
nice.
It's really interesting and nostalgic, to look through those. And the next thing I know, I found myself looking at old pictures of our dogs when we first brought them home, and and then kind of moving through history. And it was just, I was having a moment. But and then the other thing is sometimes we have to break the rules. So yes, there are rules that we don't do certain things, we put our phones down, whatever. But you know what? Not that long ago, I woke up in the middle of the night with my gears grinding with all these different ideas about stuff I wanted to write about. And so you know what I did? And this is when I actually started using Trello more instead of doing the same kinds of things that I was doing in Evernote. I started moving over to Trello because I just found I liked how easy it was. I found it was easier, even though the process is basically the same on your mobile app, on your mobile device. I still found Trello was even a little faster to just get in there and pull up a card and start writing in the description and getting my ideas down. And after about an hour and a half, I think, of just purging all the thoughts that were in my head onto that Trello card, I was able to get back to sleep and sleep like a baby again. I was exhausted, and I was just like, okay, that helps me just to purge those thoughts. I mean, the old-fashioned version of that you might want to do, Stacy, instead, is to have a pad and a pen next to your bed. Well, and
I've done that where you've gotten up and you can't shut it off. You've got something going on. I've done that where I'm like, man, holy moly, I cannot. So I've gotten up. I've gone out in the living room. I've grabbed my laptop, whatever I needed to do, or I've grabbed an old, like you said, a pad of paper, and I've just written it all down, and I've gotten it out, and we're like, okay, I'm good. Now I can go back to sleep. Where there are some times where you just wake up in the middle of the night, and you can't shut it down. right?
Yep.
And so just go deal with it and get it done with. And it doesn't matter. I mean, my clients have gotten those 3:30 emails from me. They've gotten I'm sure you probably gotten 4 a.m. emails from me. It's just because I got to get it out. It's one of those things where if I don't do this now, I'm going to forget, and then I'm going to be bummed or whatever, and I'm going to worry about it. So whatever, it is what it is.
The other thing I do is I keep this guy, my Bluetooth headset, also near my phone, near my bed, because I have the best thing I found to do in cases like that is I've got the calm.com mobile app. So I slap on the headset. I sometimes get out of bed and go sit and, I have this big old like 70s Barca lounge next to my bed, which I love sitting in. It's the most comfortable chair ever.
Right.
And I'll sit in that and I'll put on the headset and turn on calm.com. And I'll do a 10-minute meditation, and oftentimes that's all it takes to quiet my mind the way it needs to be so that I can get back to sleep.
Nice.
So I think that's a good note to end on for today.
I do too.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go to schoolofanswers.com and you'll find a link so you can sign up for the Daily Accelerated Growth Call. We do this every morning from 8 to 9, Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, we have a Slack team that you can join, and Stacy and I at some point in the day, no guarantees about exactly when, but at some point in the day we'll give you an hour of our time just interacting, answering questions, any ideas, thoughts you may have. And every video that we do for the Daily Accelerated Growth Call is, of course, posted in that Slack team. So join us so you can get the full real deal on the Daily Accelerated Growth Call every day, Monday through Friday. Look forward to seeing you on the call.
Yay.
Stop sharing. Stop recording.